My name is Gielen. I'm Dutch and I'm currently an associate professor of economics at the Erasmus School of Economics. When I'm not working, I like to hang out with my young boys. I've got 2 sons and we like to go to a coffee bar and have a great coffee. And in addition to spending time with my family, I like to exercise a lot. The best thing about being a researcher is that you can investigate things that you find interesting. And I have so much freedom to define my own research agenda, which is great. The other great thing from my job is that I get so much inspiration from the interactions that I have with my colleagues, but also with my students. And that's really a thing that makes my job worthwhile to me. When I was young, I didn't really know what I wanted to become later on. I did know what I did not want to become. And I did not want to become a professor, actually, because my dad is a professor. And I always figured that I wanted to do anything but becoming an academic. And here I am now. So while I was doing my master thesis, my supervisor encouraged me to do a PhD. And initially I was a bit hesitant. But during the thesis process, I learned that I very much enjoyed doing the research. And on top of that, I figured that I was relatively young at the time. So I thought it probably doesn't harm to do a PhD. So I started a PhD and then I got hooked on research, doing research. And that was the time where I figured I didn't want to leave academia and I wanted to pursue a career in the academic world. As a student, I was relatively hardworking, very conscious. But the main aim of this consciousness was simply to make sure that I finished all the tasks relatively quickly, such that I had more leisure time for other things left. Well, overall, my research interests lie in the area of labor economics, health economics, but also policy-relevant topics like education and social security. Basically topics that affect your daily life, and not just yours, but your parents or your neighbors. So I'm currently investigating the question to what extent welfare dependency transmits from one generation to the next, so that is from parents to their children. And the reason I started to investigate this is because we know that currently lots of people are being dependent on welfare. This is mostly disability insurance receipt, which increases over the past years. And we observe this in many countries. Now, clearly, welfare dependency is a problem in itself. So current levels of welfare dependency are something to worry about. But there's more reason to worry about this if welfare dependency right now transmits to future generations. So the main findings from the current project that I'm doing is that if we reduce the generosity of a disability insurance program, that means either people are no longer eligible for disability insurance or they remain eligible but their benefits are reduced. If we do that, then we observe that their children, over 20 years later, perform better in the labor market. So if you have observed your parent to receive a lower disability benefit or being kicked off altogether, this child has a higher educational attainment later on, is more likely to be working, earns a higher income and is less likely to be welfare dependent, him or herself. Well, it's very difficult at this stage to come up with some clear policy advice. And the reason is simply that we don't know enough yet about intergenerational transmission of welfare dependency and what are the underlying mechanisms causing this. So for the next few years, we really have to investigate this much more. As I said, looking at different schemes, but also trying to better understand the underlying mechanisms. And once we know more about that, then in the future, these results can be used to formulate policy advice. But at this stage, it's really too early to say anything meaningful about that. Well, I would always advise students to do the things that are close to your heart. It's not a problem to work hard in life. It can be very nice. But it's only nice if you do the things that are close to your heart, that you're really interested in.